Amastan's invention, the mechanized armor, wasn't just a display of power. It offered hope to folks who had been living in fear, hiding from the fallen beasts. Kings put all they had into making and keeping a few armored warriors, mostly to protect the little that was left of their realms. Others aimed to expand their territories for farming and the survival of their people. New kingdoms started popping up everywhere. The armor changed everything, redrew boundaries, and turned tiny villages into fortified city-states, creating nations that never existed before. In some areas, warlords became kings. In others, dreamers built safe havens for humanity's last chance. Many rough, mechanized suits were made during this time, desperate copies by those who didn't have the know-how or materials to replicate the real thing. As more suits came out and more fighters stepped up, people began gathering around Amastan. Craftsmen, soldiers, wanderers, and those looking for a purpose joined him. Many thought the armor was a sign of something bigger. One believer was Kai, a healer from Asia who escaped to Africa before it fell too. He started spreading the idea that Amastain was more than a blacksmith. He was the spark of humanity's creative will. Kai called it the flame of creativity, a force that pushed people to come up with ways to stand against the fallen. His teachings spread quietly, whispered in caves, sung in ruins, scratched onto bits of metal for those who couldn't hear. Over time, these ideas grew into more than just faith. They turned into a mission to keep that flame alive. From Kai's teachings, a group formed called the Order of the Sainted Flame, founded a few years after the first mechanized armor was made. They thought the fire and steam in the suits symbolized the human spirit made mechanical, Amastan's legacy in action. Their aim wasn't just to create armor, it was to keep humanity's will to survive strong. Where others saw machines, they saw determination and purpose. To them, every suit was more than a tool. It held meaning, a piece of civilization standing tall against the odds. They set up their first base at Mount Kirinyaga. From there, they aimed to build the biggest mechanized force ever seen. Putting everything on the line, they mined, built, trained, and prepared a massive army, 100,000 guardians. The walls of Mount Kirinyaga were made with every scrap of metal they could find, fortified with gears, plates, and pipes, turning it into a stronghold for survival. The forges never stopped, glowing like the heart of the mountain. Sparks filled the air day and night. The sound of hammers ringing out across the hills was like humanity's heartbeat, refusing to give up. Mount Kirinyaga would later expand with outposts all around it, creating a safe path to the sea. This defense is called the Dark Smoke Defense, established by the first High Brazier. They trained not just guardians for protection, but also scripter engineers and archivars. These folks, clad in armor, roamed around documenting history on durable steel tablets and bronze walls. They aimed to spark a revival of what made the mechanized guardian come to life, hoping to create something even better. These scribes etched tales of cities rising and falling, along with heroic names, into metal so that their stories would last. They spread these tablets across ruined lands, believing someone would eventually find them and grasp their significance. The Order didn't want to rule. They just wanted to keep memories alive through the ages. But knowledge brought respect, and respect meant power. Their symbol, a burning brazier, became known worldwide as a sign of protection. They were welcomed in strongholds and had the respect of kings due to their large army. Their armor gleamed with purpose, and wherever they went, there was a hush, not because of fear, but out of respect. Kids looked up to them with wonder, while elders bowed their heads as if they were seeing spirits. As new kings emerged, they turned to the forges of Kirinyaga, where the flame burned bright. Being a king meant needing mechanized guardians, and only the Order had the capacity to make them quickly enough to take on the Fallen. They wanted not just power, but also the goodwill of the Order, which was crucial since their supporters made up a big portion of the population. In the crumbling remains of old empires, nobles would gather to see new kings suited up, not in fancy fabrics, but in solid steel. The High Brazier didn't sit on a throne. Instead, he worked in a library that doubled as a forge, where he was tasked with creating, strategizing, and planning the Order's next moves. He didn't wear fancy robes or carry a scepter. He wore thick armor, and his voice boomed from a mask designed to sound like fire itself, known as the noise of the flame. This helmet was worn only during special ceremonies or the rare times he entered battle. To some, he was a prophet; to others, a creator, a peacemaker. But to everyone who still believed in better days, he was a wielder of the flame. Every kingdom took notice. From the lush shores of Adama to the icy frost marches, rulers acknowledged him, not as something divine, but as a reality they couldn't ignore. Once the High Brazier gave the go-ahead, the Order sent armor to the kings, followed by members who set up small strongholds for training and learning. These places became hubs of resistance, fine-tuning knowledge and keeping the flame alive. Even tiny villages could turn into fortresses if the Order saw potential. But it wasn't just kings interested in the flame. As Amistein's design spread, other groups began forming their own guardian orders, crafting armored suits powered by gears and steam. There were the Stone Lions, the Ashen Reapers, and the Iron Bloom Guard, all with one mission: beat the Fallen. Some fought for deities, others for glory, and some for revenge. But they all traced back to Amastan's designs, returning to Kirin for blueprints and following the Flame's rituals to keep their supporters on their side. Plus, they aimed to earn the Covenant Sigil, a metal scroll. Still, the Flame wasn't meant for everyone. Some orders branched off, and certain kings pushed back against the Order's influence, forcing their blacksmiths to create armor on their own, wanting to erase Amastan's name from history. Some succeeded in crafting strange designs, but most ended up failing, overcome by the very beasts they tried to defeat. Even without ruling an empire, the Order's reach was vast. They stood with kings for humanity, ensuring their legacy was recorded in every battle, on every wall, and in every suit. Their warriors fell standing tall, their scribes died while writing, their engineers perished while creating. And while many stories may have ended quietly, none did so in shame. The Story Crucible. Mechieval. Like, subscribe, and follow.